Welcome to Brady's and Birds, top 25 birds to spot driving around Central Florida. This is a beginner guide for the types of birds that you're commonly going to see just casually birding around the area here in Central Florida. We'll go ahead and start out with the bald eagle, which is obviously one of our more iconic species. We have a fairly large population of bald eagles here in Central Florida, rather. So just keep an eye out for them in trees. They eat fish and carrion, so it is possible to see them by the side of the road with a bunch of vultures, which is always a big surprise to people. The juveniles have this mottled appearance, so if you happen to see something that looks like an eagle but it has some spots on the side there, that might be a juvenile. The first and second year birds actually get chased off by mama once they're independent, and we happened to catch a mama chasing a young one out of her territory once. It was a pretty amazing sight. So keep an eye out for eagle encounters. They're pretty awesome. The next category I wanted to talk about is hawks. Now, since that's such a broad category, I'm not going to really get into a whole lot of the specific species of hawks in Florida. If that's something you're interested in, let me know in the comments, and I certainly can come back and address that. But we're just going to look at the most common hawk in Florida, which is the osprey. These little guys are also known as fishhawks for obvious reasons, and they pretty much are going to be anywhere that there's water that you can find in Florida, which is, in Central Florida, a lot of places. You'll see them nesting up on street signs and light posts and everything like that. And they're pretty mouthy, spicy birds. They got a lot of attitude. So they're one of my favorites for sure. That's why I named my cat after them. But keep an eye out for these guys. They have that whole mottled appearance on their bodies. And they look similar to an eagle, but they've got a different shape. So kind of take a moment, learn them, and you'll be seeing them everywhere once you start looking for them. Now, the next bird I want to talk about is the one I absolutely see the most in Central Florida and basically everywhere, the vulture. Oh, were you thinking I was talking about seagulls? Well, they're pretty common, but they're mostly only over on the coast. And so, I'm not going to get into them on this video, but if you want me to, let me know. Vultures literally are everywhere. These carrion eaters are an important part of the environment, and so you'll see them, everywhere. You got the turkey vulture with the red head, and also the black vulture with the black head. You'll see these two varieties mixed up. You'll see them in large groups, and also just individuals. You can actually see them at the zoo sometimes, and with the extremely dangerous animals there. They often get mixed up in large fields for the Osceola turkey, which is our Florida subspecies of turkey. They're a little bit longer and leaner than the northern species, and we have a very robust population here with tons of gobblers and hens and drakes, and often you'll see hens out with little babies if you go out the right time of year. So keep your eyes peeled anywhere there's a nice big open field, and you might see a flock of turkeys. You might also see a Sandhill Crane, or 2 or 3 or 4, but more than likely this is where you're going to see Sandhill Cranes. These guys just walk around the neighborhood like they own the place, because I think they do. We do get some migratory ones, but mostly we have a nice year-round population that breeds here, raising up their lovely little golden colts. And if you're lucky enough and you have a bird feeder in your yard, you might have Sandhill Cranes coming by with their babies, and you get to watch them grow up from the little foff balls to a red-capped adult, just like their mom and dad. Another big one that we have is the wood stork, the only stork that we have here in the United States that's native, also called the ironhead because they have that kind of ugly, cute, iron-headed look about them. These guys are definitely easy to spot on the ground. Where it gets a little tricky with them is when you see them on the wing. These guys have a nice big wide wingspan, and it's white and black. The big thing there is the long legs and the long beak. That's going to differentiate them from the white pelican. White pelicans are also migratory, so you're not going to see them as much. But the main thing there is just keep a lookout for those tucked in feet, and that's how you can tell the difference between a wood stork and a white pelican on the wing. More common in Florida, of course, is the brown pelican. You're going to see those mostly out on the coast, begging from fishermen. They have no shame. They really don't. Flying over you as you are on the beach. And also dive bombing the waves, trying to get fish. They're a pretty cool bird that you can definitely find out there on the coast. These ones, the Anhingas, are actually more of a freshwater bird called the snake bird for purposes of their long necks. They swim and catch fish, and they cannot dry their wings. They cannot waterproof their wings like a lot of other water birds. They have to actually sit them out and dry. That's why they're a really great bird for an amateur photographer, because they're going to sit still, and they are also, pretty habituated to humans, so they'll let you get close. I mean, like this female did for me. Now, the next is the Glossy Ibis. These guys are just beautiful birds to see on the wing. You'll usually see them in singles or in small groups. The ibises in general are found in large open fields or along marshy areas. You will find some varieties of ibis, particularly the white ibis, in suburban neighborhoods, but the glossies really aren't out there so much. Now, you might be wondering why they're called glossy at this point, because from far away and in the wrong light, they're pretty dark. But if you get them in the right light, oh my gosh, these birds are gorgeous. That iridescence is almost unmatched in our Florida bird population. They are such beautiful birds in the right light. So keep an eye out for them on a sunny day, and you might see something absolutely spectacular. But otherwise, they're still pretty cute to see. We also have white-faced ibis look similar to this. But I don't really see those. I've never seen one. I don't have any pictures of them. And we also have the white ibis, which, are shaped similar and behaviorally fairly similar, but are white and have this lovely red beak and legs. Now, these guys are shameless, and you'll see them out in your neighborhood with juveniles, like this mottled brown one mixed in with the white adults. Similarly, you'll see cattle egrets pretty much everywhere that you might see white ibis, and more. As their name suggests, you may see them out with cattle in fields. That's a common place to see them as you're driving around. Of course, it's not just cattle. They'll be out there with horses and rhinos. Yeah, rhinos. Even if you go to the zoo, you're going to see, some cattle egrets out there. You'll see them in large groups or small pairs, and often mixed in are great egrets. Great egrets are larger than cattle egrets, probably the largest egret we have in Florida, I believe. Just really large, majestic, beautiful birds. You'll see them generally by themselves, but they will be mixed in with other species occasionally, and they just have the most beautiful plumage. You can even see them at the beach, definitely a possibility, and look for them with other birds like the Roseate Spoonbill, the snowy egret, and the white ibis. Speaking of snowy egrets, they're a little bit smaller than the great egret, but they're bigger than the cattle egret. The biggest difference for them is that they have that lovely black beak and black legs with a little bit of yellow accents. These guys are usually by themselves or mixed in with other species of birds. And the one thing about them that is a little bit tricky is they can easily be mistaken for the little blue heron. Wait a minute, that heron isn't blue. Well, it's got the green legs and blue beak for now, unlike the snowy egret that has the black and black. And when they get older, they do get more blue, obviously. But juvenile little blue herons are pretty easy to mix up with snowy egrets. That's why you've got to learn to look at those beaks and feet. These guys are, pretty solidly blue or purpley colored. On the wing, you'll see that they are pretty much a solid looking color bird, which is going to distinguish them from a lot of the other herons like the tricolor. The tricolor heron, probably one of the most common herons that you're going to see. They have this interesting coloration where they have a fairly solid blue back and back of their neck, but then have white and other colors mottled on their bottoms. They do also have, in their breeding colors, have some white crests. They're active fisher birds, so you're going to find them by the side of the road or in water looking for fish. They're one of the birds that we commonly say, if in doubt, it's a tricolor. If you're not certain what kind of heron it is, then it's probably a tricolor. Opposite of that is the green heron, which is pretty specific. You're not likely to mix it up with anything else. They are by the edges of water and mangroves, and they have this little football shape that suddenly stretches out with a long neck when they find something they want to catch. Let's see that one more time. Look at them go. These guys are one of my favorites because they're such a pretty bird, but they hide back sometimes, so you have to really look for them if you're not too lucky. So keep an eye out for these gorgeous birds, and then let's go ahead and wrap up with our very last heron, which is the great blue heron. Now, these birds are pretty well known. Most likely you know what they are, even if you're not much of a birder. In Florida, they are so much fun to watch. You can see them eating and flying and just living their best lives as herons tend to do. With these birds, the main thing is they're really good for amateur photographers because they aren't game birds, so they're not afraid of humans for the most part, as much as any wild animal's not. And it's often easy to get close enough to them to take pictures with a cell phone camera or a camera without a zoom. So keep an eye out for these guys and get some really nice shots of great blue herons. Now, another bird that is pretty much the opposite of that is this belted kingfisher. While they're fairly easy to spot because of their distinctive shape, they are pretty speedy birds, and it's easy to lose them in the grass. So with these ones, maybe look, but don't worry about photographing unless you have a really nice camera. The females have this lovely rust-colored belt on them, and the males do not. The silhouette is a good way to see them when they're up on, say, a telephone wire or a power pole. And then once they see something they want to go get, they're a little bullet speeding through the air. Our next one is cardinals. Now, I'm probably pretty sure that you know what a cardinal is, but I have to highlight them because people don't necessarily know how ubiquitous they are here in Florida. If you put seeds out in your yard, you're probably going to get some cardinals. These little guys are fun to look at, and they have a nice little chirp. And even the females, which aren't as bright of colors, are still very pretty little birds. Now, if you want to talk about brightly colored birds, let's talk about roseate spoonbills. Roseate spoonbills can be easily mistaken by tourists for flamingos because of their pink color, and they actually have that pink color for the same reason. But when you see that bill, you know there's something else. Now, I have a whole video on them. Check that on my playlist. Now, the mockingbird here is another one of our iconic Florida birds. It's actually the state bird. And while it may not be the prettiest bird on our list, it has the most amazing vocal prowess. Put some seeds out in your yard and get one of them in your yard and you'll never regret it. Now, little red-winged blackbirds are also pretty cute little birds, but they're not as likely to be seen in the suburbs. You'll see them in the margins of fields, along fences, And you'll also see them near boat-tailed grackles. Now, boat-tailed grackles can be pretty much everywhere, and unlike the red-winged blackbird, they appear from a distance to be fully black. They're not actually fully black, similar to the glossy ibis. They actually have a lovely iridescence to them, and because they're fairly habituated to humans, they're a nice bird to photograph, actually. They find a little food, and they're more interested in that than you, and you can get pretty close and get some lovely birds in the right light. Even the females are pretty photogenic, even though they don't have the iridescence that the males do. Now, if you want something that is a little more variety, then let's talk about waterfowl. Now, waterfowl, like the moorhen here, are pretty common in Florida, but very few species are actually here year-round, like the moorhen. We do have breeding populations of them and a few of our different duck species. Because there's so many different types of ducks, including migratory ducks, though, I'm going to stick with just Muscovy ducks, and which are domesticated ducks that actually have gone feral, so they're fairly ubiquitous in suburbs. And another kind of duck, which is the mottled duck, which is known as the Florida mallard as well. They breed here in Florida. So if you're looking for ducks in the summertime, these are your guys. Now, I could go on forever about birds, and this video took like so much time and effort. So if you like it, give me some sort of encouragement here, a comment, thumbs up, a share, subscribe, whatever. I don't think I'm going to do this again unless I know that other people really want me to, because it's so much work. But I did enjoy putting this together, and I hope you enjoyed liking it, or I hope you enjoyed watching it. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks so much.